Welcome to KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio and the Southern California Business Report with Yvette Walker, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them.
Welcome and thank you for joining Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV. I'm Yvette Walker, live blasting our signal from the center of Southern California, serving a population of over 25 million. Get us crystal clear and on demand by downloading the free live streaming app on Google Play and the Apple App Store. As always, a huge shout out to the team. Mitch, Bill, and Sean, I love you guys, and to our special advisory committee that can be found at www.scbrtalk.com/advisory committee. Click on the link and learn about the leaders doing the incredible work. Okay, everybody, today I have the distinct honor to introduce Dr. Devorah Lieberman, past president Emerita-University of La Verne, 2011 to August 2023. Past president Emerita. I knew I would butcher that word, so I spelled it completely different. Is an accomplished executive scholar, changemaker, and influencer in higher education. She has led vision and strategy in areas of education, healthcare, workforce development, technology, crisis management, financial stability, leadership, fundraising, and intercultural communication. Dr. Lieberman was the first female president of the 133-year-old University of La Verne, a private not-for-profit university in Southern California, serving graduate and undergraduate students in health, education, business, law, and general education. Currently, she leads Lieberman Associates, consulting domestically and globally. Dr. Lieberman, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Yvette, when you ask me to do something, I will never say no. I'm delighted to be with you on your show today. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. I am so humbled. And, as I had said so many times in the past, the first time I met you almost 10 years ago, just completely life-changing. You are a model of leadership and vision, and I am just always inspired to speak with you. So thank you so much for being with us. Dr. Lieberman, as you know, my first question to every one of my guests is to please talk about their journey. Your tenure as the first female president of the University of La Verne was a significant milestone. Please talk about what inspired you to pursue your path in higher education.
Well, I don't know if anybody actually has a path that they actually, a lot of it's opportunity. I don't know how deliberate and strategic anybody's path really is. But if I can say that what inspired me, motivated me, and influenced me to enter higher education, to stay in higher education, and to eventually become a president was really, it was all about the students, and anything that I chose to do or any opportunity that came before me, if I knew that it was going to have a positive impact on students, then I accepted it. And that was from being an assistant professor to an associate to a full, to a vice provost, to a provost, and then to a president. I never had a specific plan. It was what is going to position me to be most helpful to students who need somebody who will advocate for them and a quality education.
As a transformative leader, what strategies did you employ to foster a culture of innovation and inclusivity at the University of La Verne?
That is a really good question, Yvette. So a culture of innovation and inclusion, two very different things that have to sort of be married to one another. When I first accepted the position of president at the University of La Verne, the university was 119 years old, which is pretty old for a human being and an institution in the United States. So when I accepted the position, the first thing I said was, or even before I accepted the position, when I interviewed and I met the students and the faculty and the staff, I said, this university is like no other university that I'd ever been exposed to. And not to belabor the answer, but when I first I was living in New York. I was the provost at a university in New York City. And when I read the job description for this institution, and I read the description of the institution, what captured me more than anything was that when the university was founded in 1891, it was founded on 4 values: inclusion, and they use that language, diversity and inclusion, civic and community engagement, lifelong learning, and ethical decision making. So, what drew me to the university were those 4 values. And I remember saying to my husband, this is how we want to raise our children. If this university lives those values, then I'm interested. We should be interested in being at the university. So when I say because my husband and I together, when we accepted this position, we came into it and we said, okay, there's this foundation for inclusion in the university. So that was part 1, and part 2 was how do I, as a leader of the institution, how do I help position the institution so that it's sustainable for the next 119 years at the time? So for the inclusion piece, I always kept top of mind, what do we have to do with the university? So every faculty, staff, and student says, this is where I belong. So if you have that sort of GPS north, this is where I belong, then everything you do will be around this thriving community and this belonging community. And for the innovation piece, long-term sustainability, so that we're here for the next 100 years, I sort of nested that in these 3 words. And the words were, how are we going to be distinctive so that we offer something that others don't offer? How are we going to be relevant so that people say this is distinct, but I need this, it's relevant to me? And how are we going to be competitive so students, faculty, and staff choose the University of La Verne? So inclusion was about belonging, and innovation was about distinction, relevance, and competitiveness.
Absolutely. Spoken like a true business leader, right? When you put a product out on the market, those are the key elements to ensure its viability and long-term success. So, how did your background and experiences shape your approach to leadership, particularly in the higher education setting?
Well, if you look far back, I mean, Yvette, I'm probably the age of your grandmother. So if you look decades and decades ago, when I was in my early 20s, I lived for a year in Israel. I lived for over a year in Switzerland, and I lived for 5 years in Athens, Greece. And I taught in the universities, and I was working in Israel, in Switzerland, and in Greece. And I bring that up and how that shaped sort of my professional path. I learned when I was in those different countries that understanding the other, understanding people who are different than you, having the empathy to really listen and understand that differences are not bad, but differences just mean different, and how can you come together? So living in those countries with those different cultures opened my mind that if I'm going to have an impact in this world, if I'm going to ever heal the world where it's broken or repair where things are really broken, then how do I have the tools so that I can cross lines of difference and get to a better place between people who are different from one another? So what influenced me in higher education as I came back from those countries, I got my doctorate in intercultural communication so that I would have the tools so that I could myself cross lines of difference. Then I chose to become a professor so I could teach intercultural communication and teach it to students so that they could then have the skills to cross those lines of difference. And then when I was tapped to go into administration, I said, I can make part of my raison d'etre and my purpose-driven life to be working at institutions where there are underserved populations, either with the students, the faculty, or the staff, and working across cultures so that everyone is really better together through the work that we do together.
Dr. Lieberman, please share a specific example of a leadership challenge you faced during your presidency and the strategies you used to overcome it.
Well, there were many. And where do I begin? I think the biggest one that sort of really looms large for me is on March 13th, 2020. And I think anybody who was president of a university or an organization during the pandemic, it's like, where were you when so-and-so was shot? Where were you when this happened? Where was I on March 13th when I sent an email across the campus and I said, okay, everybody go home, and starting in a week, we are going to be 100% online teaching. Imagine faculty who had never taught before online. They'd taught before, but they'd never taught virtually. Imagine that. Imagine not knowing how long the pandemic was going to last. I thought it would be just a few weeks. I didn't realize it was going to be at least 2 years. And so imagine being a president where you didn't know the end, when something was going to have closure, and you had to constantly be saying, okay, how do we keep the doors open? How do we recruit students? How do we retain students? And one of the strategies that I think was the most successful, well, there were many, but I think one of them was everyone, it was a moment of crisis. Everyone came together to say, how can we help one another? I've never seen faculty were helping each other go online. How do I do a test online? How do I grade online? Everybody was helping everybody else recruit and retain, because if this was March, we didn't know in September if we were going to have classes online or face-to-face, if we were going to have students in the residence halls or not. I mean, it was a time of uncertainty. And as the president, I had to constantly be leading that, coordinating things. And one of my big takeaways for this, for others, was communication, constant communication. So once a month, I held a town hall or a town meeting online. Everybody on campus was on those virtual town meetings. And every time I started the town meeting, I would emphasize our number one priority is keeping everybody safe. Our number two priority is to make sure we deliver the quality of what we're delivering. And the third priority is to make sure we're financially sustainable so that after the pandemic, we don't just survive, but we thrive. One moment, Yvette, that was so poignant for me was about 3 or 4 weeks into the pandemic. I said, I need to go to campus just to make sure that the buildings are all still there. So I drove to campus. I drove to a main parking lot, and there were about 15 or 20 cars in the parking lot. And I was like, what are these cars doing here? And I went and I knocked on the windows, and there were students in every one of the cars. And I said, roll down your window. What are you doing here? And the students said either they were homeless because they had nowhere to go when the university went virtual, or they were living in a house, a home that had so many people, they didn't have Wi-Fi, they didn't have a space to do their classes. So they were all coming to the campus in their cars, either sleeping in their cars or taking their classes virtually from their car. So that was so poignant for me. I said to the residence hall, the head of the residence halls, the dorms, I said, we're going to open our rooms to these students so that the students have a place to live. You cannot let students be homeless in a situation like this. So, and several of those students ended up getting COVID, and we said, okay, we're going to deliver food to their rooms so that they have 3 meals a day. They'll stay in their rooms and they will recover from COVID. And they all did. But when you say what was an enormous challenge, it was leading through COVID. And what was the strategy? It was constant communication and making sure that every faculty, staff, and student was as safe as possible.
That is remarkable. And so, with that said, please talk about how, as a leader, did you navigate the complexities of balancing the needs of stakeholders, faculty, staff, and students at the University of La Verne?
I think that is a very important question, balancing it all. And when we talk about faculty and staff and students, I would add 2 more constituents, balancing, or 3 actually. One would be alumni. A second one is the Board of Trustees. And the third is your community partners. So how do you balance all of that? Well, I don't think if you believe as the president that you're the smartest person in the room, I think that it will get in the way of your success. If you believe, and I try to believe this, that my job is to listen to people who are smarter than I am, who know more than I do, have more experience than I do about different areas, to listen and always bring all of that together so we move forward together. I think that is sort of a mark of what could be a successful leader. So an example with the community constituents, rather than the university telling the community partners or the community constituents what they need, what we did very strategically was, one, when we said, let's listen to the community and the community members about what's needed in health, what kind of jobs and what needs do they have in the field of health. And we must have had, I can't even, many, many, many meetings with the leaders of all the hospitals and the health organizations and the insurance companies. And we said, what are you looking for in people that you hire? And San Antonio Hospital said, we need nurses, we need physician assistants. Pomona Hospital said that. Kaiser Permanente said that. So on and on and on. City of Hope, we listened and listened. So rather than us telling them what they need, they told us what they need. And then we said, we're going to create the programs so that our graduates are meeting your needs. I think that's a very important way to balance and listen. The same thing with the students. You're coming in, what are you interested in? And then creating majors and programs and pathways for the students. For the Board of Trustees, they have fiduciary responsibility for the university and vision. So listening to the Board of Trustees and then having all of them like constant communication so they're aware of one another. The last thing about listening to the students, when I would walk across campus, and I'd like to do that every single day when I'm on campus, I would stop students everywhere I went, and I would say, tell me your name, tell me where home is for you, and then I would say, what's your mission? And they would say, my mission? And I'd say, yeah, I don't want you to tell me your major. I want you to tell me your mission. What do you want to achieve in life and what impact you want to make? And they would think about it and they would say something like, I want to have a clean planet. I want children to have a good education. And I would say, great, if that's your mission, our job as a university is to help you create or select the major so you can achieve that mission. So balancing all of those voices and the constituents so that everyone is speaking, feels comfortable, is listening, and then the university responds to what the constituents say they need. That moves us forward.
Wow, that is remarkable. Dr. Lieberman, what role did mentorship and professional development play in your leadership approach, and how did you support the growth of aspiring leaders within the university?
Oh, that is a good question, Yvette.
Well, you build leaders within your university, and based on your previous response, it's clear to see how you do that. Asking them what is their mission and putting that thought in their heads and supporting them, giving them the structure and the framework to achieve their mission. I know you're all about mentorship. Please talk about mentorship and professional development in your leadership approach.
Well, I think that's pretty simple. When I was an assistant professor, sometimes you identify someone that you want to be a mentor. Sometimes somebody says, wow, I see something in you that you might not see in yourself, and they become a mentor. And it could be a long-term mentor or just at a specific point in your life. So a couple of people that just come to mind as you ask that question. When I was an assistant professor at Portland State University, and we call them baby professors because you're just starting out as a professor. And I met the president of the university, a woman named Judith Ramaley, and she said to me, Devorah, I want you to help me be a better president. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a baby assistant professor, and she's the president of the university. And she said, I want to meet with you regularly, and I want you to give me feedback on how my presidency is, and I'll give you feedback on how you're doing as an assistant professor here at Portland State. Well, that was the first time someone truly took me under their wing, saw something in me I didn't see in myself. And I think having Judith as one of my role models and my mentors taught me how important it is to be a very serious, humble, authentic, and empathic, caring mentor to others. So I took it very seriously. And there are several other people similarly. When I was at the university, a president at this university in New York, he had taken me under his wing through a couple of years during my professional growth. And he called me up and said, Devorah, I would like you to consider applying to be the provost at my university. And I said, oh my gosh, could I be a provost? And he said, you have everything it takes to be a provost, and I will mentor you. If I select you, I will mentor you through that. And I was like, wow, what better opportunity than to assume a new job and have your boss saying, you can make mistakes, you can fail at a certain thing, I will help you get back up and get back on that path. So that was the mentoring that happened for me. And I've taken that so seriously. So during my presidency, whenever a student came to me and said, will you be a momentary mentor or a long-term mentor? A student, a faculty, staff, others, I don't think I ever said no because I knew how critical it was for me. And I'm hoping that I had a little bit of an impact on others as others had on me.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, we are on a break here. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Lieberman. Everybody hold tight. Yvette Walker with ABC News and Talk, Southern California Business Report, here today with Dr. Devorah Lieberman, President Emerita of the University of La Verne. Dr. Lieberman is a distinguished leader whose visionary tenure has had a lasting impact on higher education. Her legacy is defined by inclusivity, innovation, and unwavering dedication to student success. When we return.
Cal State San Bernardino is home to the only school of entrepreneurship in California. With globally ranked degree programs, you can start your journey today to become a successful entrepreneur. Learn more and connect at entre.csusb.edu.
Hi, I'm Dana Rademacher with MGR Property Management.
A lot of people wonder about the value that property management has for their property. Property management can include all property types, including residential, commercial, and HOA. It is valuable because property managers are experienced in what can happen at your property. We're aware of liabilities. We're able to do predictive and preventative maintenance. We know what is coming up with the changes in the weather, the seasons, how old certain aspects or different capital projects at your property are. We're able to best negotiate contract pricing, legalities with your tenants, and anything else that you may need to ensure that you're getting the full value of your property.
If you're interested in speaking with the representative at MGR Property Management regarding your property management needs, you can visit our website at mgrrealestate.com, or you can call our number at area code 909-581-6600 to be connected with the representative.
The University of La Verne is rated first in California for alumni satisfaction. Learn more about accelerated programs offered online and on campus in La Verne, Irvine, Ontario, Burbank, or College of the Canyons. Visit go.laverne.edu. The University of La Verne. go.laverne.edu. Ontario International Airport is onto a better way to fly with over 65 daily non-stop flights to more than 20 major destinations and the easiest airport experience in Southern California. Visit flyonto.com/Ontario to learn more about Ontario International Airport today.
Hi, I'm San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dykes. If you're looking to start an exciting career in law enforcement and make a difference in your community, we are hiring dispatchers, nurses, deputies, laterals, and many more. For a complete list of our jobs and more information, visit sheriffsjobs.com.
We are the Empire Strikers, the professional sports team of the Inland Empire. We are a fast-actioned and community-inspired pro indoor soccer team. Our mission is to inspire the Empire. Home games, community events, watch parties, and youth camps are all back. Professional indoor soccer is back. Join us and come watch the greatest show on turf at Toyota Arena or on Twitch. Visit www.theempirestrikers.com for more and any information.
Welcome back, everyone. Yvette Walker with ABC News and Talk Southern California Business Report, here today with Dr. Devorah Lieberman, President Emerita of the University of La Verne. Dr. Lieberman is a distinguished leader whose visionary tenure has had a lasting impact on higher education. Her legacy is defined by inclusivity, innovation, and unwavering dedication to student success. Thank you again for being with us today, Dr. Lieberman.
You're welcome. I'm delighted, humbled, and honored.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lieberman. Okay, last question on your previous role as president of University of La Verne. Reflecting on your presidency, what do you consider your most significant achievements in terms of advancing the university's mission and vision, in addition to your record-breaking $170 million fundraising effort?
That's a good and hard question. So many things happened, but off the top of my head, Yvette, here are the things that stand out to me as so important, and I'm proud of them. First is the university is 133 years old. It was very important to me and the university that I recognized all the presidents and what had been accomplished for the 119 years, the 17 presidents before me, because the university didn't start when I came. It started in 1891. So I was honored to be sort of a resident of the university in this trajectory that it was on. So I'm really proud and pleased that we're able to always recognize the past, then lived in the present and focus on the future. That's the first thing. Always recognize the past and those who came before you, because you did not create something. You were given a gift to continue something. That's the first thing. The second thing that I'm proud of was that $170 million, but I did not raise that by myself. It was everybody at the institution together. And I'm most proud of that because so much of that, the largest, when I came, the endowment was 36 million and we raised it to 151 million. So that increase in the endowment was not just a number, it was scholarships, so many scholarships that we could then give to students so that the students it could defray the cost of education for the students. That's the second thing. The third thing is for the last 2 years in U.S. News and World Report, the University of La Verne was ranked the #1 private institution in the country that on the factor of economic and social mobility. So what does that tell me? Students who come to the University of La Verne graduate and they go on to get fantastic jobs, mostly in the Inland Empire and in the region. I'm proud of that because it means that we have an education that students use and that employers want. So those are three. And the fourth thing is that we established the Education and Innovation Corridor in Ontario that hadn't existed before. So it was always a focus on how we can be impactful in the community and help the community to thrive. So those are four things that I'm really proud that I didn't do it, the university accomplished it.
Remarkable. Dr. Lieberman, so as you transition not into retirement, but as you put it, rewirement, which I absolutely love that phrase because retiring is only what happens when I had to do what I had to do this afternoon and get a new tire, right? We had a joke about that. I loved it. You came up with that so quickly. Yes. Rewirement. After your impactful tenure as the first female president of the University of La Verne, how does that shape your vision for the future?
Excellent question again, Yvette. So in a year prior to my announcement, I announced in September to the board in 2022, I guess that was, or 2022, yeah. So almost a year before I stepped down, which was August 15th, 2023, so 10 months ago, I said to the board, I'm going to step back. There was illness in my family and I wanted to focus on family. And during that year, I read a lot of books, and one of the books was called Ikigai, and Ikigai, a Japanese philosophy about being purpose-driven. And it influenced me in what I was going to make as my choices for rewirement, where one, I wanted to focus on family because I had illness and we have children. Wanted to focus on family. I wanted to focus on self so I could sort of be reflective and become a better person. And I wanted to focus on how I could continue to give back to the world in a way that was healing the world where it may be broken. So with those the first two buckets, family and self, that was on me to figure that out. On the professional, when I read this book called Ikigai, it said to have a purpose-driven life, you need to have 4 legs to that stool. 1 is do what you love. 2, do what you're good at. And as I always say, I love singing. I have a terrible voice, so I should not be a singer. So do what you're good at and what you love. Do things that have impact and do things that you can get compensated for, whether it's money or appreciation or something else. So those 4 legs of that stool influenced everything I've said yes to and everything I've said no to in this rewirement chapter.
Wow, that's so exciting. I'm so excited to see how this rewirement chapter looks. Can you share with us how your experience as a past president of the university has influenced your current work and initiatives in your rewirement chapter?
Yes, I'm delighted to talk about that. Oh, everything that you're asking me, I'm delighted. But this one and this one is pretty easy because as I was going through my Ikigai, my purpose-driven stool, I let it be known in higher education and beyond that in this new chapter, I would like to continue to do things that have positive impact. So a couple of things. One is the largest higher education association in the country, the American Council on Education. The president of ACE, that organization, asked me if I would be the senior advisor to the president in the president's office. And I was, once again, I don't know if it's imposter syndrome, but like, oh my gosh, really? That's fascinating. I love it. Let's try it. And I said yes to that. So I've been doing a lot of work with ACE, and in particular, I'm working with this huge initiative that they have, and they've had it for years. It's called the Women's Network. It's called Moving the Needle, and working with women in ACE on how they can work with women across the country so that women presidents and those who aspire into the C-suite, that they can be successful and they have the leadership strategies and the confidence. And so I'm thrilled about that. That's a big one. The second big one is there's an organization called the International Association of University Presidents, and it's presidents from around the world. So IAUP, the organization, the president asked me if I would lead a women's initiative for all the female presidents around the world that are in the organization and the male presidents who want to help lift up the women in their universities so that they can be elevated. So I've been doing that for a year. And as a result of that, I have a book coming out in the summer. It will be online. It'll be digital, free to everybody. And it's 10 university international presidents, all female, and their stories and their leadership strategies so that they could be successful. Very excited about that. I've been doing a lot of executive coaching with people who've reached out to me, and I find that very fulfilling. And last, there's an organization, a company called Phoenix Philanthropy, and they are campaign counsel. So for institutions around the country, around the world actually, when they hire Phoenix Philanthropy, I work with the president on their fundraising skills so that they can be successful. So I'm pretty busy in this rewired chapter, but I'm saying yes to the things that I believe will help higher education, will help inclusion, and will help individuals to achieve more than they ever imagined.
That is remarkable, Dr. Lieberman. How do you envision your continued role in higher education and leadership even after stepping down as president of University of La Verne?
Well, when organizations ask me to help, or individuals, in higher education or not in higher education, in healthcare, because there's so many corollaries, I will not say no. If I can, in some little way, help someone or help an organization, I will do that. And for the University of La Verne, if the university ever asks me to do anything in the way of mentoring or advice or anything, the university was so good to me for 12 years. And that's a lesson for all of us. When you leave an organization and they've been good to you, you owe it to them to be good to them as well. It's sort of, you pay it forward. So, how am I going to continue to give back? That's a pretty easy one. When someone, either for profit or not for profit, reaches out and asks me to help, if I have the joy, the skills, and the wanting to make the impact, I will always say yes.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Lieberman, you touched on the philosophy of Ikigai, but can you speak to additional guiding principles and values that continue to drive your work today, especially in the context in your rich experience in academia?
What continues to drive me? I think higher education is in a very, I don't want to say fragile, but I think this is a tipping point in higher education for many reasons. One, there will be fewer students graduating from high school in 2025, so that means fewer students going on to college. That's a tipping point. The second is there are more presidents retiring now because of how challenging the job is than ever before. So we have to support presidents so that they can be successful. And for me, especially women, female, I think all presidents, but I have a soft spot in my heart for females who aspire to be presidents or in the C-suite. And so to help everybody. And there is such a distrust right now and a divide in the country around higher education. What drives me with higher education is that we have to repair the distrust. We have to help presidents be successful, and we have to create the programs and the tools and skills so that all students can be successful. And Yvette, you know this. When I was a very little girl, my parents said to me every weekend when we would be having our discussions, they said to me, "You have one obligation in life, Devorah, and that is tikkun olam, which translates to repair the world or heal the world." And they said, no matter what you do in life, no matter who your family is, no matter what profession you're in, your compass north is tikkun olam. Make choices that heal the world and repair the world. So it doesn't matter what religion you are, what faith you are, but if you really believe that you have an obligation to help others where they need help or where things are broken, then it doesn't become about you. It becomes about something bigger than you. So any advice or wisdom, which I don't know how much I have, but if I were to offer it, it would be focus on what's bigger than you. It's not about your ego. It's not about yourself. If you can do things that help the other, whether it's higher education, healthcare, business, any profession, any industry, helping the other is what's going to make this world a better place. And we need that today, Yvette, more, I believe, than we've ever needed it before.
I couldn't agree with you more, Dr. Lieberman. We absolutely need some major healing in this world today, and especially as we look at the landscape of our universities and healthcare systems, healing the world and focusing on something bigger, larger than us, is something that I hope and I believe can really push people to greater heights than they ever imagined.
Right. And Yvette, I've watched you for 10 years, and you live that life. And I know this show is not about you, but I'm telling you, you're a treasure to all of us.
I appreciate you, Dr. Lieberman. You're making me cry. Thank you for that. So, Dr. Lieberman, what insights or advice can you share to those who are preparing for or are in the early stages of their own rewirement or retirement, so to speak, from high-profile leadership roles?
What advice can I give? Well, the first piece of advice I learned from my younger daughter, our younger daughter, my husband and myself, Emery Lieberman, Auerbach. And when she was studying in India, in her study abroad when she was in college, we flew to India, of course, just like every parent, to visit their child in their location. And when I was at the airport, when we were at the airport, I said to Emery, if you could sum up your whole year in a sentence here in India, what would that be? This was years ago. And she said to me, oh, Mother, does everything have to be academic? And I said, honey, we paid for this trip. Yes, just give me the one sentence. And she said, I guess I'd say growth begins when comfort ends. And I never forgot that, Yvette, because when I had been going 100 miles an hour my entire professional life, and then all of a sudden it went August 14th, I was 24 hours a day. August 15th, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm rewired. I remembered when Emery said, growth begins when comfort ends. And I said, it's okay for me to be uncomfortable because I'm growing. And I adopted that Ikigai philosophy. And I knew that if I just focused on that, as well as my family and my own self, my own personal growth, that it was okay to be uncomfortable because it was just part of the process. And it's a journey, Yvette. We're all on our journeys. And my Rewired chapter, it's a journey. And I feel really good about it because I'm making choices. I'm saying no to things. I'm saying yes to things that have an impact. And there's a lot of moments where I am saying, oh my gosh, I'm not comfortable. It's okay. I'm growing.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, the last question, Dr. Lieberman, how do you see your past and future work aligning with the principles of living in alignment, especially as you transition into this new phase of your career in life, or I should say, into this new chapter of your career in life?
I think, well, one of the things I've adopted in this new chapter is journaling so that I can journal where I'm comfortable and I'm uncomfortable. And having moments every morning and every night where I say, what am I grateful for? And I go through this in my head. It's the first time in my life I've really journaled and I've focused on what am I grateful for? Because when you're at a point in your life where you, as they say, have, you're on your back nine as opposed to the front nine, and you don't know where you are on the back nine on the golf course, how much longer you have. I think it's critical to make choices where you truly have impact, where you have joy, and where you, at the end of your back nine, you don't look back and say, I have regrets. You say, I made choices that truly made the world a better place.
I love it, Dr. Lieberman, and I love you so much. I'm so thankful for the day that I had the opportunity to meet you. As I said before, it was truly transformative. You inspire me and shifted the paradigm of what I understood a woman in a professional role could actually become. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Yvette. And look at the women around the world who are now becoming presidents, not just universities, but of their countries.
That's right. The president of Mexico.
No, Mexico. That things are there are things that we can look at and say, I have great hope. And let's make sure we focus on that hope is the new normal. And we're not pessimistic, but hope is the normal. And that's how we should all be living.
Absolutely, Dr. Lieberman. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom today.
Your wisdom, Yvette. I thank you.
All right, everybody listening today, don't forget to find us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Check us out on scbrtalk.com. Don't miss my interview with Michael Kraus, President and CEO of Toyota Arena, Ontario Convention Centre, the Greater Ontario Convention and Visitors Bureau. He also oversees several signature events that bring a large economic impact to our region, including Route 66 Cruise and Reunion, Christmas on Euclid, and the California Sports Hall of Fame. Next week, we will have Tina Hughes, CEO of the Inland Valley Recovery Services, who is highly recognized among her colleagues in the field of treatment for substance use disorders, a field she has worked in since 1995. She holds a bachelor's degree in human services management from Phoenix University and a licensed advanced alcohol and drug counselor, or LAADC, credential from California Consortium of Addiction Programs and Professionals. You do not want to miss it. We will see you all next week.
This has been the Southern California Business Report with Yvette Walker on KMET 1490 AM, FM 98.1, and ABC News Radio.